Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and the adventure that my life has become, because up until 12 years ago, I was a completely ordinary person. There was nothing unusual about me whatsoever. My big passion was mountaineering. And in January 1999, myself and my good friend Jamie Andrew went to climb this mountain here, Les Droites, in the French Alps. It's a 4,000-meter peak, and its north face, pictured here, is one of the great climbs of the Alps. So we set off in perfect weather, blue skies, sunshine, great forecast, and great-looking climbing conditions. Our goal was to climb the mountain and back down in about 3 days. So we made really good progress. On the first day, we climbed halfway up the mountain, and by the afternoon of the second day, we found ourselves 3/4 of the way up the peak, and at that stage, feeling very confident that the climb was pretty much in the bag. And it wasn't until about 2 p.m. on that second day that our luck started to change, when this massive storm broke out. It was a huge, unexpected storm, and in the end, ended up pinning us to the mountain summit for a shocking ordeal that was to last for 5 days and 5 nights. Temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees C, wind speeds of 130 kilometers an hour. Well, when we were finally airlifted off the summit in a spectacular and daring rescue on the morning of the 5th day, tragically it was too late. Too late for Jamie Fisher, who had died from hypothermia during the final night, and very nearly too late for me too, hypothermic and very severely frostbitten at this point. In fact, my hands and feet were literally frozen solid. But I was removed to Chamonix Hospital, where I was exceedingly well taken care of. The doctors and surgeons and nurses, many of them mountaineers themselves, my friends, family, and my girlfriend Anna. But ultimately there was nothing the doctors could do to save my hands and feet. And on the 10th day, all 4 of them had to be amputated. So that's not actually me. This is Dionysus, and I don't normally compare myself with Greek gods, but we share the same amputations. But you know, waking up to after those operations to see that my hands and feet were gone forever was just an undescribable shock, and it just took me so long to come to terms with, to believe that my life could ever be worthwhile again. But I came to realize, I guess, that I was the lucky one. I was the one that survived. I'd been given a second chance, and so I had to make the most of this second chance I'd been given. And so I set about this enormous task of literally putting myself back on the feet. And it was a massive process, learning to do all those things that we all take so much for granted, just getting up out of bed in the morning, washing myself, dressing myself, feeding myself, going to the toilet myself, and of course, most importantly to me, learning to walk again. So eventually, 3.5 months after the accident, I was given a pair of these fantastic, top-of-the-range, carbon fiber, titanium prosthetic legs, and here I was, just you know, on my new legs again, walking on my new feet, and that was such an incredible experience. So I moved back home, and before I knew it, I was looking for the next step in my adventure, and I found myself just about a week after moving back home, climbing mountains again. Although you might not describe this as one of the world's most significant mountains, but nevertheless, standing on the summit of Blackford Hill with this fantastic view all around me, I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And I just started to take it one step at a time, you know, just goal by goal by goal, step by step. Starting out with the smallest hill in Scotland, about a year later I found myself here on the summit of Ben Nevis, the biggest mountain in the UK. Pictured there alongside Anna, who I'm very happy to say, about a fortnight later, I was to get married to. And I just started taking on all the other challenges too. There was no stopping me at this point, so I would just give anything a go. You know, anything that my friends were doing, I would just go along with them and see what happens. Cross-country skiing was a good example, you know, and so many of these things just proved to be a case of just going for the easiest solution, you know, not being afraid just to try it out. So just pulling on a pair of ski boots, clipping on a pair of skis and going skiing. Simple, it was just as easy as that. And before I knew it, I was actually doing quite long skis. Snowboarding. Once again, I just clipped a snowboard onto my feet and went snowboarding. You know, quite literally, in fact. I didn't even bother wearing the boots because I figured, well, I'm not going to get cold feet. So there are 1 or 2 small advantages of being an amputee, as I was beginning to discover. And then one thing that I had thought would be impossible without hands and feet, which was downhill skiing. I just had these awful pictures in my head of these two artificial legs on skis disappearing off down the mountain without me. But once again, when I actually gave it a go, I was fine, and I swallowed my pride and took a few lessons, and I'm now quite a good skier, better than I was before the accident. Running was another big passion in my life, and I was soon up and running again within 5 months of the accident, and I made the horrible mistake of signing up for the London Marathon. So once again, it's amazing how a big event like that can really inspire you to achieve more than you dreamt was possible. But the biggest goal for me really was getting back into climbing, and I did think at first that it was surely impossible without hands and feet. But once again, I just gave it a go, and to my astonishment, as much as to anyone else's, I found that I could. It was just a case of learning to make the most of what I had, making the most of the tools that I have available, and soon managing actually quite difficult rock climbs. So next I thought, well, I'm going to go ice climbing, and that meant the hardest part of that was persuading my prosthetists that this was really quite a sensible way of spending taxpayers' money. But once I got past that hurdle, we designed and built these things, and before I knew it, I was climbing up the gullies and frozen faces of Scotland. But at this point, I really felt that the time had come to complete the circle, if you like, to take the last step and to return to climb once more in the mountains where it all happened in the first place. And that was an amazing experience for me. It was laying to rest of ghosts. It was a very healing experience, very cathartic. So that was great. But the biggest challenge was yet to come. The biggest challenge by far, in fact, was still on the horizon. My kids, they're now 7 and the twins are 5. And believe me, they're a hell of a big challenge. I mean, climbing mountains without hands and feet is just insignificant compared to this. In fact, you don't even want to know about changing nappies with my teeth. I think it's just the important thing is that life goes on, and for me, that's the most important thing, and that's what challenge is all about, is what inspires you. So thank you very much.